Begin Podfix Network transmission in 3, 2, 1.
What is up, plant people? Today is Tuesday, the 20th of April, 2021, and you're listening to the Planthropology Podcast, the show where we dive into the lives, careers, and overall really coolness of some of the best plant people in all the land. I'm Vikram Baliga, your host and humble guide through this journey, and I'm thrilled you're with me today. Hey, so I'm going to keep this short today because I want to jump right into this episode. It's great. You're going to love it. Kristyn is a friend of mine. We were in grad school at the same time here at Texas Tech. She was working on her master's, and I was finishing my PhD. We've worked together a couple of times doing some ag communication and social media stuff, and she is just like a top-notch human. She's a farmer. She is a seed salesperson. She grows corn. She sells corn. She does some wonderful social media stuff through her outlet, Gingerline Creative and Gingerline Farms, and is really just one of the most warm and personable and intelligent and wonderful people I know. And so I can't wait for you to hear from Kristyn. Before that, real quick, I don't have a mid-roll in this episode because I totally forgot about it when we were recording. I was having so much fun talking to my friend. But so I'll throw some stuff here at the beginning. You know what? You should go follow Planthropology on social media. Go find all the things on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I'm the Plant Prof on TikTok. So if you're one of the TikTokers, go follow this old man on TikTok, on the place that you are, and see all the silly stuff that I do to make a fool of myself on there. It's great. If you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/planthropology, and you can, for as little as $1 a month, support the show. Make sure we keep talking about plants. Anything that we raise goes directly back into the show or into horticulture education in general. So that's all I got. So let's listen to a great episode with my friend Kristyn Dickey from Gingerline Farms. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's play some music. All right, well, we're back with another episode of Planthropology, and I'm here with my friend Kristyn Dickey, who I'm pretending like she came all the way from Colorado just for this interview. I don't think that's true, but I'm going to pretend like that's like it is. Kristyn is a farmer, a seed salesman, and an advocate, which is a advocate for agriculture, which is kind of an important thing these days. So, Kristyn, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so far so good. I've been up since 3 a.m., so my brain is sort of working.
Well, I saw that on Instagram or Facebook that you went to shoot the Milky Way.
I did, because I'm a crazy person.
That's cool.
It's fun. I conned a friend into going with me. And so, you need to find a friend that'll get up at 3 a.m. and go wander around in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night with you.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah, and the first thing we said when we got where we were going is like, do you think the snakes are out? I was like, I don't know. It's cold. Probably not.
Yeah, in that case, I wouldn't be with you. Did you go around here?
Yeah, we went down near Tahoka, which is like, for those of you listening from not America or not West Texas, is about 30, 45 minutes away from where we are. And we drove about 120 miles this morning just around West Texas and stopped a couple different places. And so, I left home at 3:40 and rolled back into my driveway about 7:45. And I was going to take a nap, but I have a 5-year-old, so.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That halts it pretty quick. Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Do what you got to do for the shot. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I may or may not have knelt in the middle of a highway for about 5 minutes. But if, there's no one out at 4:30 in the morning. There's no one out. It's fine. This has nothing to do with you or I'm sorry. I'm just talking about my weird morning.
No, you have cool hobbies.
I have hobbies that don't take place at normal times, apparently. Fishing, this, whatever. Anyway, so tell us about yourself, Kristyn. You have done a lot from ag communications to farming and sort of everything in between. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What did you like growing up? Tell us about you.
I am from eastern Colorado, a little town called Cheyenne Wells, but I went to school in Kit Carson, so about 30 miles west. I graduated with 6 people.
Oh, wow.
There were 22 kids in my entire high school.
Okay.
So when I say I'm from a small town, I legitimately am from a small town in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have any stoplights, no McDonald's, no Walmart. Yeah, so
Okay.
very
Wow,
small.
6.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, small. So yeah, I grew up, my dad and his brother's farm and run a little bit of cattle. And I was the first generation to go to college. So I kind of got burnt out on farming. I grew up helping dad and whatnot. And decided I was out of there and never wanted to see dirt again.
I believe that. So you moved to Lubbock.
Well, actually, yeah, it's funny how we circled back. But no, I went to Denver to Regis University for my first year and was studying Spanish. I wanted to be a Spanish teacher when I grew up. I'm not really sure where that came from, but I learned quickly that I would not do that. So yeah, I was there for about a year, and really that's when my whole advocacy thing kind of came into play, because I realized how far removed people had been from not only rural America, but farms in general. Yeah, one of my first run-ins was one of my close friends. I was talking about sitting on a combine for harvest, wheat harvest, cutting wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't understand what you mean by a combine. And I was explaining the type of equipment. And she's like, oh, I thought you meant Columbine, like the Colorado flower. And I'm just like, I'm not quite sure how you got that from the context. But anyways, yeah, I had lots of conversations like that. A lot of my friends were from like California and Arizona and whatnot, and big inner cities.
Right.
So long story short, I decided that I need to go study some type of communications. And so my younger sister, she's a year younger than me, had come down to West Texas A&M in Canyon
Okay.
to study nursing. And so I came to visit and found that they had an ag-communications degree. So cool, I can study like journalism and agriculture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember coming down and it was just ugly and brown, and but yeah, within the first 30 minutes I was sold, and the people were wonderful and the college was awesome. So I transferred within 2 weeks, I think.
Oh, wow.
So it was a
Okay.
very quick decision, yeah. So I feel like I'm making this pretty long-winded,
No, you're
but
good. You're good.
so I did my undergrad there, graduated with ag-comm. And then I went straight to work for Triangle Realty in Canyon, Amarillo. They weren't hiring, but I had met Jamie Haynes a couple times throughout college, and I wanted to work for her and be like her when I grew up. So I knocked on the door until they created a position for me. So yeah, I then was a marketing liaison for about a year and a half, and then realized, well, there's more I want to do in life, and I'm only 23, and so I wanted to go get my master's degree. So I was going to go get my master's degree in international ag from OSU.
Okay.
But then I found a program here in Lubbock that would allow me to work kind of hand in hand here and in Eastern Colorado with Reviving Rural America.
Okay.
So that was Ogallala Commons. It's a nonprofit. And so then I started my master's with Dr. Boren here at Tech
Yeah.
as ag education. So I get my master's here, and then I decide I'm going to go straight into my PhD until I defend my thesis. And then it's just kind of like an overwhelming emotional, like, this is the first time I've taken a breath in 2 years kind of thing. And I have an addictive personality, so I was completely addicted to my thesis project. And so then I realized, okay, maybe it's best to step back for a second and go back out into the real world. So I go home randomly one weekend and meet this gentleman that sells corn seed to our family, and he's looking to transition, retire. And so he asked if I had a job, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to go straight into my PhD. And so anyways, we got to talking, and within a week, I decided to take his position and move back to Colorado.
All right.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm a district manager for Golden Harvest through Syngenta, and I manage about 25 guys and sell corn seed.
Wow.
So
all right.
yeah, done a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. But that's cool. Like, I think, we'll get more into some of the like advocacy work. I'm going to keep saying advocacy because I cannot get the other word out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be hard to say see, I can't do it.
Advocacy. Yeah, it is a little bit hard.
That G is too hard or something. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, try spelling it.
My inability to use the English language well is not, notwithstanding. But no, so I think to really do that well, and we'll talk more specifically about what you do, you kind of need to know a little bit about everything, right?
Yeah.
We are, I'm nerdy horticulture plant guy, but people expect you to know everything about what you're talking about, which is unreasonable, right? But it is what it is, right? People expect you to know. So like the fact that you've done a little bit of a bunch of different things in the industry, growing up in it, getting out of it, coming back in, that actually, I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right or not, but it seems like that would help overall just from a perspective standpoint.
Yeah, totally. I've been pretty entrepreneurial my whole life. I think that's in my genetics, and it's just come in helpful in any position that I've had. And okay, I'm only 28, and sometimes I think, I haven't done enough, or I have jumped jobs too many times. But the older I get and the different positions I have, I start to realize, okay, well, it's great that I know how to video this property, or if a farmer's not here, I can easily communicate with him. I'm pretty good with people. My education, or my ag education, master's degree is coming into play because I'm learning how to educate adults. I took a cool class called adult learning, and I use that quite often in just explaining what type of hybrids would fit best, and then what types of questions to ask the growers. And so, a lot has come into play into every position that I've had. So I enjoy being kind of multifaceted and.
Yeah. No, it's important for sure. So you may have answered this a little bit already, and if you have, I'll cut this part out. It's not that I wasn't listening. My brain just kind of runs too fast sometimes.
Mine too.
What was your thesis over? What was what specifically did you study?
Yes. So my thesis, you're probably going to have to stop me because I said I was addicted to it, and I was addicted to it. So the reason I came back to school was I knew this is what I wanted to study, and nobody was going to tell me what I could do a thesis on or couldn't. So my long-term goal in life is to have a learning farm, like a couple. Cool. 10, 20 acres, garden, and then teach students and adults life skills, because I think a lot of those classes have been taken out of public school systems, and we've kind of gotten away from basics and fundamentals. And so anyways, there's a program here in Lubbock called GRUB, which I'm pretty sure you've worked with.
Yeah.
So I did a qualitative grounded theory study on pro-social and anti-social behaviors. So basically, I interviewed 12 people who had been in the GRUB program. Let me back up. The GRUB program is basically a gardening program for low SES children in Lubbock. Sometimes they're sentenced to GRUB because they got in trouble with the law and have to go do community service and whatnot. But then it kind of turned into kind of a community for students, children in Lubbock to join just to learn basic life skills like gardening, cooking, interviewing, basic communication skills, critical thinking. And so I wanted to know where these kids were ending up after they graduated from high school or from the program. So I interviewed 12 people who went through the GRUB program, and the stories that you hear about their backgrounds were pretty alarming. Just abuse and a lot of hardships that some people never even think of going through. And then you realize that these students ended up being nurses. One opened a chiropractor business. One became a farmer and had no previous experience with agriculture whatsoever.
Yeah.
So going back to the thesis, I used grounded theory to develop a theory of how when they start the program, they typically had antisocial behaviors. So antisocial behaviors lead to people acting out, crime, violence, emotional instability. And so that was like isolation, apathy. We don't really care. These are the circumstances we've been given in life, and it is what it is. I'm going to act out because I really have no choice.
Yeah.
Or I'm hungry, and my only choice to feed myself is to do things that put me or my family in danger or are against the law.
Sure. Yeah.
So through learning these life skills, they began to figure out teamwork and critical thinking, and then a lot of pride and purpose from putting a seed in the ground and raising it to fruition to see the fruits of their labor kind of thing. So they come out of the program with pro-social behaviors such as belonging, grit, self-worth, and empathy instead of apathy. So they become more contributing members of society.
Okay.
So
that's really interesting.
That was long.
No. But that's great. I think that I would. People are like, hey, can you give me the elevator pitch for your? I'm like, no, I'm just going to talk.
It's quite complex, always, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is complex, and it, honestly, it should be. It should be complex. I think and this is an aside, but like we are pressured a lot of times in science, maybe in everything. But let's talk just specifically about science to like, okay, well, what are the cliff notes? Like, give me the 15-second explanation. And we need to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be complex, especially when you're dealing with people and teenagers, right? Like, they're complex little humans. We all are, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I have no problem with you going into detail because I think it's really interesting. But people need to understand that, like, okay, this is again another sort of like tangent, maybe a little bit, but we live in a world where we try to distill everything down into a single point in space, mm-hmm. right? Like we take complex, messy humans, and we're like, this is what it's about, and that's not life. That's not how it works. Nothing's that clean and neat and focused. I don't know. That's maybe a soapbox, but
no, there's so many psychological constructs, and I didn't do a quantitative study. So quantitative is numbers. We're going to get a focus group. We're going to take our surveys, and we'll have our numbers. My brain doesn't operate that way, and I'm much more into the human. We're just inherently messy. So the psychology behind our actions is why I wanted to do a qualitative study. Yeah. So I could give you the 15-second pitch, and you'd just be like, oh yeah, we need more contributing members of society. But why were they acting out in the first place was what I wanted to get down to. Yeah,
the context matters.
So yeah.
No, that's really cool. That's really interesting. We had Matt McEwen, who is the new director of the Grub program, or the Farm Orchard and Grub, on the show a few weeks ago. But I like the perspective you bring, because he works with the kids, he does all that, and he's mm-hmm. there like on the ground. I love the perspective from the like psychological, like science side of it, of the same kind of thing. That's a cool, like, I guess, way to wrap that up too, is just to, I don't know, to again, I think I talk a lot about how context matters in everything we do. And that's important context for why they do the program and why it's important and how it helps. Not just that it helps, but how it helps.
Yeah, I think the program was a little bit threatened because they weren't seeing tangible results. And so my study helped quite a lot, I think, because they saw that these students, 6 out of my 12 said if they weren't in Grub, they would have killed themselves. Like, wow. Yeah, suicide is where I would have ended up. Wow. So it's like, this program is not only teaching kids life skills, it's saving lives. So yeah, it was a very, very emotional process. And it's hard when you're the interviewer and you have to maintain a distance mm-hmm. and bias. And so it was very emotionally, you have to keep a journal. Because the conversations I had, I mean, some of it was like, wow, I can't believe they're telling me this right now. But it was awesome because they just trusted me immediately. And sometimes we would have 3-hour conversations that were recorded. Yeah. And I'm like, this is being recorded. But they were fine with that because they really came from such hardships and were so proud to be still alive. They were still here and they were thriving, they didn't just get through it. They're all doing pretty good. So it's an awesome program, and
That's cool.
I'm glad they have it. Yeah.
Ag saves lives in a whole lot of way.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
sure does. It's kind of the core of everything.
It kind of
Yeah, the
is.
land is important.
So let's go back just a little. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about. So I want to jump back a little bit and talk about what you do in your current role, or you've got a couple of roles now, but in your current role let's start with seed salesman, because salesperson, whatever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Then that actually leads into what I want to ask you.
Okay.
The fact that I made that mental flub a little bit. So you are a woman in agriculture.
Yes, I am.
What's that even like?
Lonely. So it's crazy. There's been a lot of juxtapositions between my study with 12 participants that were in a gardening program and my role as a woman, not only in ag, but back in rural America, and then in my particular position. So yeah, what I do, sometimes it gets confusing because our vernacular doesn't make a lot of sense. It would seem like I'm doing the direct selling to the grower, farmer. I call my farmers growers, but I'm not. So I oversee about 25 guys. They're all men, and they do the direct selling to the grower. So basically, I assist them in understanding what hybrids would place well in certain soil types, environments, etc. And I do a lot of customer relations with like our top 10 growers who might need more focus and farm larger acres.
Sure, yeah.
Something like that. So, yeah, it's been very rewarding, and I'm thankful that my group of guys adapted to me eventually. But I'm actually quite a passive person. It takes me a while to be confident about something until I know that I'm competent in that subject. So yeah, coming into the role, typically before you can be in my current role, you have to do a 2-year like DSR program. It's kind of like an assistantship leading up to this role. Well, I didn't do that, and I never interned with Syngenta or any major ag company for that matter. So I think that threw some of them for a loop, and it threw me for a loop because I'm just like, all right, we're figuring this out. I know nothing about a corn plant. I mean, I do, but my family didn't start farming corn until I think I was in college. So really, a corn plant is a little bit complex when you first start out, or to me, and like I really didn't even know about relative maturities and heat units. And yeah, so the agronomic side was intimidating. And I think my guys knew that, but I was very transparent and open from the beginning. Like, I know what I don't know, and I'm willing to stink at something new. Mm-hmm. And that's something to admire. I think in the beginning, I kind of had imposter syndrome, but the longer I've been in this role, it's like, dude, you just went for it, though. I mean, you're willing to learn, and what I've learned in 2 years has been awesome. So, yeah, they all kind of adopted me pretty well. In the beginning, we had some just distrust, I think, and unease. They had been with the same guy for about 16 years. And so when a young person, they all thought I was straight out of college, which I wasn't. I had 6 years of work experience before coming into this. So young, and then female. Yeah, there have been comments, but not really from my dealers. It's really come from my growers. And I have about 500 farmers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you work with a lot of people in agriculture.
Yeah.
Probably mostly dudes.
Lots of dudes. Me and a bunch of dudes. That's what I'm always saying. Yep. Yeah. It's a good thing I grew up farming with my dad and his brothers, because I'm the oldest of all the cousins. And so it was usually always me and a bunch of dudes. So I don't really take offense to jokes or, and I'm not afraid to ask for help either. I mean, sometimes there literally are some physical things that I need help with that some guys are just stronger physically.
Sure.
But yeah, I can joke with the best of them and drink a beer and very adaptable, I think.
It's interesting to me that you say that. Well, I totally get imposter syndrome. I do 100%. Like, I've been doing plant stuff for a minute, and like I know my stuff.
Yeah,
but
you
still
know plants.
Still some days I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Why am I here? Like I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to hear you say that you consider yourself sort of like a passive. You strike me as very confident and capable, and not that being passive negates either of those things, but I just like it's interesting. It's an interesting thought to me how we perceive ourselves a lot of times, because I've known you a few years, maybe, we haven't known each other super well, but like we've been friends a few years and we've worked together a little bit. And you have always come across to me as very confident, very strong and capable. And I think that I think your personality really lets you to do what you do well, from the sales to the advocacy and everything in between. So, I mean, I've always been very impressed with you.
Thanks. It's funny that you say that, because most people, I'll say, oh, I'm really introverted, or it'll come the weekend and I just don't want to do anything. And they're like, well, you're a people person. And I'm like, I am. But like now even, I mean, I'm shaking. And I don't know I totally am an introvert. And I get really, really nervous, but I think there's just a part of me. I'm the oldest child. Like I said, I've just always been used to having to toughen up and like it or leave it. I mean, we're here. So you're either going to sink or swim. And I think I just kind of have that thick skin. So I am not afraid to go in scared. Like going scared is kind of something maybe one of my mantras, just go for it, dude. And you got to be tough. So... And it can't be that scary. You're going to come out alive. I mean, So, even if I'm shaking in my boots, I'm going to go because I like learning and I do like people. But at the end of the day, after today, I tried on wedding dresses and come do this and then we travel. And I'll meet with some friends. I'll be tired. I'll need 2 days to recoup.
No. My wife is kind of the same way. She works with the public a lot. And she's very good at it, but then some days she's like, I just need to not talk to humans. Yeah,
I can turn on very well, but you can ask my fiance. I don't say much to him sometimes on the weekends, and he knows.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
Oh, no, I get that. And I'm unfortunately probably annoyingly extroverted in general. No,
I envy that, people like that.
But I can't turn it off sometimes. And so and this, again, this is an interesting conversation. Again, it's not necessarily, what our main topics were, but when we talk about communication and we talk about effective communication, I think it takes all kinds for one thing.
Yep.
But then I think we all have challenges we have to overcome to be effective at the things we do.
Yes.
And, I kind of like like what you said, that we're here now and it's like, okay, we either figure it out or we don't.
Yep.
And so, I feel like as in your position as a woman, I feel like you've had a lot of things probably to overcome with dealing with the perceptions of the people that you work with, but it seems like you're doing a great job.
Thanks. Yeah, I think vulnerability is a huge thing, not only for my current role, but being an advocate of any sorts or a communicator of any sorts. Like, I'm just not afraid to tell it how it is and be honest about, what I don't know. And I think that's what helped me get over the obstacles pretty quickly in my role was like, listen, I don't even understand why he's planting a 98-day corn next to a 118-day. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And I might look kind of silly, or literally sometimes I would get like the deer in the headlights, like this girl legitimately is our manager. But I didn't know. So I don't like pretending. I'm not a good pretender, which is why I think I'm good in sales, because I'll shoot it straight. And I think people value that, especially these days. So many people have so much armor on or a facade, and it's like, this doesn't work. We've just got to bring ourselves to the table, and people appreciate that. And it helps people. They open up so much quicker to you because they can sense that vulnerability and that authenticity. So
yeah, that's awesome. So kind of tying on to that, like, you talked about how, you were coming into this role not knowing a lot about corn, and how your family started growing corn at some point when you were kind of gone already.
Yeah, it's too late.
And so now you're growing corn.
Yeah.
Or yeah, so how's that? I mean, like, did you see yourself? I mean, I think from our conversation, it was kind of clear that you didn't necessarily when you were young, but like, how did you see yourself maybe back into a farming role, like an actual like agricultural farming role?
Yes. So I always knew, even growing up when I left the farm, I knew that that's how I want to raise my kids. It's just a way of life that, and it goes back to my thesis too. I just think everything starts with the land.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to connect and become grounded and just understand that everything comes from something, which I think our society is forgetting. And we're so quick to be entitled or have instant gratification. And it's like a seed has to be planted and watered and cared for until you see the fruit. So yeah, just kind of a metaphor for life and what we're given and received and what we're sometimes not entitled to. So yeah, I always knew I wanted to grow up or raise my kids on a farm and marry a farmer. I always wanted to marry a farmer. I just think the lifestyle teaches things that a lot of people don't get, and I really do feel like it's a luxury. So yeah, that's part of the reason I took the job was I did want to stay here for my PhD, but I thought, you know what, maybe this is a sign from God to go back and start farming with my dad and whatnot. And
Yeah.
it has kind of ended up like that. I mean, I met my future husband, didn't expect that, but yeah, so farming's just important to me. I think it's where everything starts and ends. And it's a tough life, but most farmers are humble and kind, and because they've been humbled.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have $1,000 repair or market prices crash or you're in a severe drought, but you're humble and resilient, and those are qualities that I admire and I would like to have and pass on to future kids. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Can you tell me, like, just from like because I think maybe, kind of what we're talking about is there's maybe a gap, or not maybe, there definitely is a gap in knowledge about how things work. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you've got cornflakes, cool, right? Like, you go to the store, you buy corn, I like how you say that everything comes from somewhere, and that's really important. So can you tell us just briefly, or as briefly as you want to, it doesn't have to be that brief, honestly. I've said this before, but I used to get really like caught up in how long these episodes were.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I realized it's my show and I don't care. And so like however long they go is fine.
Yeah, that's great. Because I'm very time cautious. Yeah. Conscience.
And it seems like people still listen. I hope if you're listening that you're still listening.
Yeah.
So can you tell us just a little bit about like how your operation runs? Like what are, I know that's a big question, but like if you were to tell someone like this is what it's like on a corn farm, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So it's a little bit complex because because it's science. So yeah, I farm with my dad. So I'll just speak about the family and then the logistics of the farm. Okay. So I have a full-time job that takes 98% of my time. And then my fiance farms with my dad and his brothers.
Okay.
And so they're the ones who do the farming. And then I just have a couple acres that I call the shots on, me and my sisters. So my dad has his stuff. I have my stuff, and then we have cousins and everything else involved. So farming, we farm mainly wheat, corn, and milo. So year round, we're busy. We'll plant wheat in September, and then that doesn't come up until July.
Okay.
And then between then, we will plant corn. We're fixing to plant corn probably around May 1st.
Okay.
And then we hit the ground running. So, and then we'll harvest corn in October. And then throughout the year, we'll be fertilizing and chemigating. And we don't do a lot of plowing. We're pretty much minimum to no-till because it's all dry land. So we don't have any water. I say I'm from Colorado, but I'm not from the mountains. It's literally just like West Texas. Everybody's like, oh, you moved to the desert for school. I'm like, yeah, nope. It's just the same.
Yep.
The wind doesn't even blow as much here as it does where I'm from.
Really?
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah. I was totally used to. Yeah. It's a little bit warmer here though.
Okay.
But, yeah, so that's basically it. We do all the deciding what plants and what types of plants. So when I say hybrid, what type of hybrid of corn I'm going to plant on said acres, and then call all the shots on fertilizers, all the sides, fungicide, herbicides, pesticides, and then marketing with the markets. My dad and uncles do that, and
All right.
then away it goes. We store it in the bins and sell it when we need to sell it.
Now, are you all growing? What type of corn? Like grain, like feed corn, or
Yeah,
Okay.
90. I think almost all of our corn goes to feedlots.
Okay.
So even just generally speaking, for my territory, for my full-time big girl job, 90% of the corn grown in Colorado goes to feedlots, feeding cattle. Yep.
Okay. That's interesting. So yeah, it's really cool to hear. Like, I did not grow up in agriculture. I grew up in backyard gardens and things like that.
Yeah, which is the kind of agriculture that I think is so cool that I don't even know if I have a green thumb. So
I think you probably do.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think you probably do. But like when we talk about the scale of a farm, right? I'm used to the, I work with a lot of farmers market producers.
Yeah.
And they're like, I have a big operation. I have 5 acres. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I came to Texas Tech and started to learn about agriculture, being in the plant and soil science department. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So we're talking like hundreds or thousands of acres in large scale production. And
yes,
it's a totally like, it's cool because I think it's interesting. We have the same goals between like horticulture and agriculture, is we're either feeding people directly often or feeding something that feeds people. Like we're all part of the food chain or the fiber chain. We're providing for humans, but the ways we approach it are different. And I think that's really interesting. Again, as a, backyard garden nerd, like it's cool for me to think about and try to wrap my brain around like large scale agriculture.
Yeah, I think it gets very muddy talking about being an agriculturalist and a producer and a farmer and a food producer. And for some reason, it seems like in the last couple of years, agriculture has become a bad word.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the whole Bill Gates thing. I mean, I hate to throw him under the bus, but that we're just tilling up our soil and have completely destroyed the land and we're poisoning America. I mean, I've literally watched some TikTok videos and had people message me because I posted about no-till the other day in spring. But we don't think about the byproducts that come from all of this, like your ketchup, your detergent, your crayons, your paint, what you're wearing, your sunglasses, like corn syrup, cornstarch,
literally everything,
bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the things I think we forget, that what are guys growing cotton for, what you're wearing today.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we do not have, and we didn't have a garden growing up or anything, but it's not rare to have several sections in a row because we're in the flyover states. It's just farmland. Like I said, I graduated with 6 people. So we live on farms, big farms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that actually leads us into kind of our next topic, which is, you just talked about maybe the perceptions of agriculture in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really love this new project you've started, Gingerline. So talk about that. Talk about where Gingerline Creative, Gingerline Farms, and all that came from.
Yes. So in this role, I've always been a pretty artsy-fartsy kind of person. And in fact, a lot of people are like, you grew up on a farm, or like, you sell corn seed? Because I kind of look like a hippie some days. So don't let it, fool you. But Gingerline, like I said, just kind of felt like I didn't have a creative outlet once I started this job and moved back home. And so writing is my first true love. I've wanted to be a writer my entire life. And so I went from writing a thesis and spending all day, every day devoting to this written project to driving a lot and drinking a beer with farmers, once a day. So yeah, I just felt that I had a void. And then I started to realize my cup is not runneth over, really, at the moment. And I think it's because I'm not getting enough diversity. I felt like I was in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And that's boring to me. I mean, that's part of the reason I wanted to leave where I grew up, because everybody thinks the same, talks the same, walks the same. It's just like, pretty vanilla, which is great. I mean, I came back for a reason.
Sure.
So I thought, you know what? I think I need to go back to my roots of, why I went to college and stuff, and just start sharing what we're doing on the farm. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just start a little blog. And a lot of my family was encouraging me to just start writing because they missed reading my writings. So I started that. And then I just slowly started posting random like Instagram live stories of on the tractor. And it's funny because a lot of my college friends would be like, you on a tractor? Because I look like a hippie, I'm just like, yep, this is the other part of me, guys. And it has kind of just come into an advocacy role that I maybe didn't plan for, but now I see the importance for, because I talked about an echo chamber, and now I'll talk about a spiral of silence. So I'm in Colorado, and we've got some major challenges facing the agriculture industry with legislation and the politics in Colorado. Sure. So what kind of sparked the whole Gingerline Farms Instagram advocacy account was our governor created a meat out day to help in people's diets and help the environment and everything. And
sure, that
backfired. And I personally didn't agree with it either. So I put a post out there just saying, well, Mr. Governor, here's what I think. 90% of the corn is given to cattle, and a large majority of Coloradans are farmers and ranchers, and these are our livelihoods and everything. And also, the 100 million acres of corn grown in the U.S. Gives off 40% more oxygen than the Amazon rainforest. So corn is important, and corn is fed to cattle, so cattle are important. So yeah, I did that, and that kind of went viral. And I had several people message me just about like, hey, have you ever considered politics? No way, I haven't, and I will not. So
it sounds awful.
Make it known. Yeah, it's a no for me, but I can write and I can tell my story, and I can represent some of us, because I don't know if you know this, but farmers and ranchers don't exactly like to speak up. We're kind of pretty reserved people, and we don't like everybody knowing our biz.
Oh, yeah.
So long story short, I created Gingerline as a creative outlet, and just thought of it as a long-term umbrella to kind of be a multi-hyphenate creative agency, whether that's real estate or farming or education. And so, yeah, I have my blog now, and then I turned my Instagram into Gingerline Farms, and it's just really fun to interact with people about being on the tractor and what we're doing today and why we're fertilizing and how I'm getting ready to select my hybrids of corn. And there's another proposal in Colorado called the Pause Act that basically would criminalize any artificial insemination, fertility testing, breeding soundness exams. And so I posted about that the other day, because really, and it's not just Colorado, we've gotten to the point where consumers are out voicing the people who provide the food to the consumers. And it's frightening. I mean, it could be catastrophic if this passes and makes it to the ballot, what it would do and what it would mean for farmers and ranchers. Yeah. So yeah, I posted about that, and I was shaking in my boots because I don't like conflict. Right. But I had several people message me that I went to Regis with, all my friends from California, of course.
Yeah, sure.
They're like, we don't understand this. We don't understand why you're attacking. And I wasn't attacking. I was just presenting the facts. And it was emotion driven, which I usually try to stay pretty even kiltered. But it ended in great conversations and educational conversations about why this is important and actually what this means. Because they make all this legislation confusing.
Oh, yeah.
On purpose,
sure.
I think. And ag is hard enough. For me, I grew up on a farm, and I didn't really know there were so many different types of hybrids of corn. So imagine somebody else like, what's a hybrid of corn? Yeah. And why do we need it? So. Okay. Yeah, just a way to educate kind of to the lay people.
That's great. And you do a great job with it. I am, for better or worse, I live on social media these days. Right? Yeah. Too much. I do too much.
Well, TikTok is addicting, man.
I cannot.
And you're
help
really
it.
good at it.
Oh, thanks. I know. I appreciate it because I'm the old guy. You know.
I'm old too. Yeah, you get on there and you're like, oh, okay, these kids are 18. I'm nearing 30.
Yeah, I'm on the other
not
side of that.
cool anymore.
I rolled over 30 a few years. So I'm 33, and I got on this past year because I think like so many people got, like, especially us millennials, I think we jumped on TikTok because we were bored last year.
Oh, yeah. And
I don't know how to be bored.
Yeah, I, for one, was like, I would never.
Oh, yeah.
Because I
me
thought it was
too.
a bunch of teeny boppers,
Mhm.
or that's what everybody said. And then I get on there, I'm like, this is hilarious.
There's
and
so
there's
much funny
actually
stuff.
some cool content.
Yeah.
That I'm like, this is such a great little 60-second blurb about
Yeah. And,
making a pasta or what you can do with your laundry. Or, yeah, it's.
well, and we have
cool.
to tell stories differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, so I come from Extension, or my last career was with Extension, and you know, I love Extension. I do. I love the way that they do things. But unfortunately, a lot of the things that we did were the things that they did in the 1960s.
That's the way we've always done it.
And
Yeah.
and that's, and I get it. I understand why. But like, you know, one of the things that I always thought was so powerful about it is that like it took knowledge to where people were. It broke down this knowledge barrier where people, especially people in agriculture, who either just didn't go to school or didn't go to college or whatever, or didn't have the means or the time to, like, I'm going to schlep myself somewhere and open a book about what we're doing. It's like, no, I have to grow things. We have to do all this stuff. Extension was so powerful because it could take that knowledge to people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing through Instagram and TikTok and all of these different silly things that we do on the internet.
Yep.
It's like, no, we're taking the information to the people that need it where they are. We're meeting people and meeting their needs where they live.
Yep.
And it's, again, there's so much funny stuff on TikTok. There's a lot. I'm just like, oh my, who would think to do this,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
like,
no. Yeah.
yeah, there's plenty that I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, scroll faster. But there's so much funny stuff on there. But I'm the old guy and I don't know what I'm doing. So luckily, I like to say that I have two skills. And one of them is asking if I can help with something after the job's already done. That's one of my major life skills. And the other one is being enthusiastic. And that lends itself well to social media.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And people like being entertained while educated. So I think they're awesome. And that's why, like, when Instagram came out with the stories, that was a total game changer. Because when I was here, like in school, I would miss being on the ranch or the farm or whatever. And then I follow quite a few people from home that would start just videoing moving cattle or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like I'm there and I love
Yeah.
it. It gives me the warm and fuzzies. And even my friends now, they're like, what? That's a big old tractor. It's a big old sprayer. And yeah, you don't understand how large some of these farms are or the equipment, or like how cool it is to see a woman owning agriculture, her place on a farm.
It's really cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. So where did the name come from?
Ginger
I
lime.
love the name.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. I felt like I wanted something that people would remember and associate as artistic / yeah, farming. I wanted it to have some flair.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was on a walk with one of my buddies, Blaze, who is a total hippie, and I won't offend anybody or him by saying that he's a hippie because he's got dreads and everything. Very spiritual, intellectual, was always challenging me in those ways. And so anyways, we were on a hike once and I was taking a bunch of pictures of the land and any leaves I could find that were kind of like a burnt orangey color.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, why are you taking all these pictures? And so I said, I'm trying to find this color and I don't think it has a name, but it's like a burnt orange, but kind of like the cool retro orange from the 70s. And anyways, my grandma Jeannie, I think, used to wear an orange lipstick. And so a couple days later, I got a letter from him and all it said was gingerline. And then it said, of yellow orange color, her lipstick or something like that. I'm forgetting what it says, but the story's on my blog if you want to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I just thought that was a cool name that I hadn't heard very often.
Yeah.
And this really doesn't come into play, but I've always wanted a redheaded daughter because
Okay.
my grandma was redheaded, and we don't have any really redheads in our family. I think I have one distant cousin with redhead. Anyways, so I just thought, what a cool way to commemorate my mom's parents, because they've both passed, and he was a farmer, and they were a little more funky, I guess, and less traditional. So that just was the flair in itself, I thought.
And honestly, you nailed it, because it brings all those thoughts to my mind. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, it's creative, but it kind of feels like earthy. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, well, the color's earthy. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I love the, believe it or not, I love colors, and I love all that, which I think lends itself to the horticulture stuff that I do and photography stuff. So anything like that, I think it makes me pretty happy.
Yeah, I wanted it to just elicit a response of what the heck is gingerline, and I looked it up. There's one like Tupperware company that's gingerline, but I think they're in the UK, so
you should be all right.
Yeah, I'm pretty original, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So that's really cool. I really like it. And yeah, I'll post links to all your stuff, in the show notes and all of that. But so one question I really wanted to ask was, where do you see yourself going? I think that's not a question that, for whatever reason, I have not asked a lot of my guests for some reason. But for some reason that just popped into my head, that like, where do you see yourself the rest of your career with farming and all the different things you do? Where are you going?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Well, because I've jumped around so much already. But yeah, like I said, I'm entrepreneurial by heart. So I would eventually like to completely work for myself, with my husband farming. So yeah, we don't know if we'll stay in Eastern Colorado. We really, really, really love West Texas. Just the people, and it just feels like home. It's like the sense of place when you just know where you belong. Just makes my heart pitter patter. So yeah, we want to farm. My biggest goal in life is to have what I call my learning farm. And so it probably will be something similar to Grub, but my main passion is bringing people back to the land and where everything comes from something, and just, the psychological constructs that come with it, the pride and the passion and the purpose and the patience of growing something, and the tenderness that comes with it, and how the fruits of your labor mean something. And so, I would like to do that. Maybe cooking classes someday with an event center. I got a big old idea drawn out that hopefully in the next 5-10 years we can make happen. I like planning events, which you would be like, okay, you didn't mention that in any of your other career interests. But yeah, something like 10-15 acres, learning farm. People could have retreats there. Probably art classes, cooking classes, just a holistic way of bringing everything together based off of the foundation of the land.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And I think you're a natural storyteller, and what better way to tell the story of all of this, everything we do, the land and everything that comes from that, than what you're talking about. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
So, okay, you've listened to the show a little bit, and I always like to throw this question as the last question of my guests. And it's funny because some people were like, I've thought about this since the first episode, but most people are like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Which is fun for me, actually. I don't know what that says about me, but it's fun for me. So if you could leave our listeners with one thing, anything, it can be about agriculture, it can be about life, I don't care. What would that one thing be?
What I would say is, you're not entitled to anything. And I think that comes from being raised on a farm. Nothing is free. Hard work matters. So just go out there, show up. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I feel like I'm putting lots into one thing. But yeah, the main thing is, we're not entitled to anything, and everything comes from something.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, respect.
Yeah, I like it.
Respect where it comes from. Yeah.
It is very important to understand that. I love it. So, you're kind of a lot of places, but where all can we find you?
Well, on Instagram, of course, because that's where I'm at most of the time these days, which can kind of get exhausting, like, because I'm an introvert. But Instagram at Gingerline Farms. And then my website is gingerlinecreative.com, which those would be the longer posts. And I'm not just posting about agriculture. I've got some heavy love stuff. I've had quite a few relationships, not quite a few, whatever. I've had 4 boyfriends. But yeah, we don't want that to be taken the wrong way. But
it was fun to watch you work through that statement.
Lord have mercy. Yeah. But no, I think I'm a very introspective person, and I like to share that art, and some of it's pretty heavy and it might make you cry or mad or angry, but I want to elicit some feelings and be vulnerable about how we're all human and we all experience some messy stuff sometimes. So yeah, check that out. I'll be posting a lot more about isolation and what it's like to be a woman in ag, especially, and isolation in general, being back in rural America.
Yeah.
And belonging and apathy, empathy, etc. So I think those are my main.
Okay.
Just my website, and I do have a Facebook page. If anybody's on Facebook, it's just Gingerline Creative.
Okay.
And then I live in Eastern Colorado, so if you're ever in the plains of Eastern Colorado, you can find me there on a tractor. Probably I'll be on a corn planter, running around. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably making a cool video about it.
I hope so. Yeah. It's weird. So I'll be planting corn with my 500 or so growers. So I'm like, how am I going to tell these guys, like, hey, Bob, for example, do you mind if I just set up my phone real quick and we record this? Because when it comes to corn planting, it's serious. Like, it's go time. No, right. We don't stop. We don't stop for lunch. We don't stop for dinner. We're going.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that goes. I'll be planning a lot of plots. So that will be really educational. Stay tuned for that. You should follow me on Instagram to learn about corn. I'm starting a corn series called Corn with Kristyn. That's not very creative, but
I like it.
It's what I could think of.
It's catchy.
Yeah. So follow me there.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in. Driving here all the way from Colorado just for this.
I did 7 hours just for Vikram.
So it's a long way.
Yep.
No, this was great. I really enjoyed talking with you. It's nice to catch up.
Thanks.
And thanks for listening, people, humans, whatever. I guess you don't have to be human. I don't care. If your dogs are listening, I'm glad they listen too. But go follow Kristyn. All the places, all her links will be in the show notes and all the social media stuff. And y'all are the best, and we will talk to you next time. There's always this awkward time where I can never remember how to turn this thing off. No, but really, I never talk about it, but I always forget how to turn off my recorder. I don't know why. I've been doing this for 1.5 years. I should be smarter, but I'm not. Y'all, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful episode with Kristyn. We covered a lot of ground, and I hope you get a picture, a little bit above a better picture of maybe what life on a farm is like in America, what it's like to be a woman in agriculture, and what it's like to, I don't know, put yourself out there and talk about the things you love and the things that matter to you in a very real way. I think Kristyn's doing an excellent job of all of that. Thank you so much to the Texas Tech Department of Plant and Soil Science for sponsoring this crazy business and for being so supportive of everything that we do here at Planthropology. I hope that you have a wonderful end to your April. It's been a wild year so far. I imagine April will continue to do so. But we'll be back next week with our next installment of Plants and World Traditions. This one's going to be called April Showers. And I hope that you will love it. Those have been fun to do, and I'm looking forward to doing more of them. But y'all have a great next couple of weeks. I'll talk to you soon, and y'all keep being cool.